Hello, BookTube. Today I am returning to my reprise of the alphabet tags created by Jim of Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff. Today, the E tag. E is for Ernest. What is the importance of being Hemingway? I think his literary influence, for good or mostly ill. E is for elephant. What is the biggest book you have read this year? So that's a bit of a tough question for me. I would go to two mammoth works of history that I plan to read for March of the Mammoths. My plan was to bookend The Soviet Century by Karl Schlegel and The New Roman Empire by Anthony Kaldelis. The Soviet Century is a rather off the beaten track history of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, and the New Roman Empire is a new history of the Roman Empire with its capital at Constantinople. Unfortunately, both immense works of history are bales. I did not finish either one of them. So that left me scratching my head as to what the longest book I've actually managed to finish this year is. I'm thinking it's the complete poetry of Frank O'Hara. I think it's the complete poetry of Frank O'Hara is like the longest individual book I have read. Although, if you want to go with the longest story I've read, that would be Naruto. While I did start my reread of Naruto by Masashi Kishimoto sometime last year, the vast majority of the series I read this year, and I really enjoyed it. So, it's either the complete poems of Frank O'Hara or Naruto. E is for English. What do you consider the greatest English novelist? Or no, who do you consider the greatest English novelist? I think this prompt can go in a number of directions. You can focus on pure literary quality. Who technically is the most proficient novelist? Or you could go with the most influential, whose work has influenced the most of their successors over the decades and centuries. Or you can go with who's the best-selling novelist. And so my answers were centering, I think, around George Eliot. I think there's a good case to make that she's, on a literary level, the greatest novelist in the English language. Although I myself have not experienced that. I've only ever tried Mill on the Floss, and I've never gotten into it. I did have Middlemarch at one point, but I don't have it in my collection anymore. And while I do have the occasional temptation to add more Victorian literature to my collection, I never actually acted on it. So when or if I will ever get to more of George Eliot, I don't know. My other answer was going to be Agatha Christie, because she is, as far as I know, still the single best-selling author in history. And there is a greatness in that, even if her writing is not on a technical level all that great. So E is for Elantris. What is your favorite book or series by Brandon Sanderson? None, because he stinks. E is for experimental. Have you read any experimental books? I have tried. There is a anthology I have called Anti-Story, edited by I think Steve Stevick. I'm blanking on the editor's name. That's composed of a number of more or less experimental short stories. I have also tried Duck's Newburyport by Lucy Ullman, which is basically the epitome of stream of consciousness, and also as few sentences as you can possibly get in a 1,000+ page novel. I've never managed to successfully read that book. I think the most I've ever gotten is maybe about 100 pages before I gave up. E is for ebooks. Do you prefer physical books or ebooks? Physical books all the way. I do not like ebooks. Every time I have tried to read a book on Kindle, I basically, if you can remember to the scene in Wrath of Khan, where the Enterprise has managed to disable the Reliance systems, and Khan is looking around trying to figure out what's going on, how he can fix it, and he doesn't, so he starts to pound on the console. That's basically me with ebooks. I do not think ebooks are a better mousetrap. E is for exploration. What is your favorite travel book? I don't have one. Travel books are a genre that I'm not terribly familiar with. I've sometimes thought about maybe expanding, trying some out, but I haven't gotten around to it yet, and I don't know if I ever will. It's not something that I'm really super interested in. E is for elf. What is your favorite fantasy creature? I'm going to go with the Exceed from Fairy Tale and Eden Zero by Hiro Mishima. The Exceed are a species of anthropomorphic cats, typified by the character Happy, who appears separately. I mean, they're two separate characters in Fairy Tale and Eden Zero. Hiro Mishima is rather fond of referencing and carrying over characters and designs between works. E is for extraterrestrial. What is your favorite book about another world, or your favorite planet, real or fictional? I think I would go with what had been my favorite science fiction novel, Radiance by Catherine M. Valenti, which is a weird and rather, I don't know exactly how experimental you would consider it, but it's a rather weird space opera about a radically different solar system in which all of the planets are habitable. And the book is about coming to terms with loss. The main subject of the book is a filmmaker, a documentarian who disappeared during a filming expedition. And the descriptions of Venus and Neptune and Mars, and I think Saturn too, are quite lovely. And finally, E is for Exodus. What is the most interesting book you have read about an Exodus? don't think I've read one, or one is not coming to mind. So that was the e-tag. If you would like to do this tag, consider yourselves tagged. If you are a new booktuber and you haven't done these alphabet tags, please do consider doing them. They are a lot of fun, and yeah. So until I see you next time, BookTube, thank you. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.